Saying no doesn't make you selfish, it makes you strong. So, if you're finding yourself constantly giving away your time, your energy, and your peace of mind, it's time we talk boundaries. Hey, I'm Margaret. I'm a mindset coach and an Unstuck specialist. And today we're going to dive in and talk about the importance of boundaries and why they're so essential to our emotional health and our mental well being. So, let's learn about how to get empowered, to stop saying yes to everything, to start saying no and making ourselves a priority. So first of all, why do we even struggle with this? For some of us, it comes from just our childhood. We didn't have boundaries. No was not an option. For others of us, it may be the culture that we grew up in. I think this can be especially difficult for women because there's so much around being good, right? And what comes up then is this fear of disappointing others. And we think that if we say no, then we're being selfish or we're going to let them down. And then behind that is we're afraid they're not going to like us and they're going to reject us. And that just feels yucky. But it's not the case. The second thing that pops up is this need for approval, right? We were raised that yes means good and no is bad, right? Don't forget, be a good girl, right? For many of us women, we were raised always saying, be a good girl. And that meant saying yes to everything. Very rarely did that mean say no. I know for me, this became a real problem when it came time to saying, no, I can't be on your committee. No, I can't be on that board. What ended up happening at one point in my career was I was working. I had a family. And then everybody would ask me to be on these boards or sit in on this advisory committee at work or this at church. And then could you do this at school? And I never wanted to tell them no. I mean, it would be mean. It would be selfish. Like I was that person. And then I realized I started to resent that I had to go to all these meetings, which I had said yes to doing. And worse yet, then I started to come up with reasons to magically not go to the meetings. And I started to become an unreliable person, which made me not trustworthy. And that wasn't who I was. I knew it was time I had to make a change. And so I started to look at why I was struggling to be reliable. And it came down to my boundaries. So there's some really great benefits to having boundaries. First of all, you're going to protect your energy. You're going to protect your mental health, your emotional health, and, your physical health. Because so often when we're overloaded and we're drained and all of those things, we get run down and sick. Second of all, setting boundaries helps us improve our relationships. When we only say yes to things that we value, people respect us. Third, it's going to boost your self-worth. Because when you say no to the things that you don't value or you don't want to do or you don't have time to do, what it does is it says back to yourself, I'm valuable. My time is valuable. My energy is valuable. My insights are valuable. And I deserve to choose when and who I share that with for my best interest. That's a big one. So how do we go about this whole transition, right? How do we start putting in boundaries? And this can be really challenging. And one of the things that I will say, as I've mentioned this before, but I think it's so huge, and that is you can read all the books in the world, you can listen to my talk and other talks, but it is very difficult to set boundaries when you are coming from a place of fear as opposed to a place of vulnerability. And that's kind of hard sometimes to hear because the reality is that when we're sitting there with all that fear of being disappointing others, fear of rejection, fear of approval, we've got a ton of armor on and walls. And when we're behind walls, we can't set boundaries. So that's really, to me, the first step is getting brutally honest with yourself about how capable you are at being vulnerable enough to set the boundary. Now, once you've come to a place where you can say, you know what, I'm not living in fear. I'm going to come from a place of vulnerability. I'm going to be strong enough to, as Brene Brown would say, step in the arena and risk it. Then From there, it's about practicing saying no. And literally, sometimes it's just practicing no. Like, you know how you run those little like dialogues in your head? Well, run that dialogue. Because here's the thing, you know that there are going to be people that you have said yes to in the past that are going to give you pushback. And you need to be prepared for that pushback. So just like you would go ahead and practice a speech before you gave it, you might want to practice the no's and practice how you're going to handle the pushback. Also, we want to make sure that when we say that no, we say it with clarity. Not like a waffling kind of no, like a, yeah, no, I can't do it. No is its own sentence. No, right? Just practice no. You can simply say, no, I would love to, but my schedule is already full. Now, for me, once I started saying no, there was this huge weight taken off my shoulders. And all of a sudden, I started to show up as the person I knew myself to be. And that was as a reliable person, as a trustworthy person. Instead of being the person who you could put on a committee, but she may or may not come to meetings, I became the person who you knew was going to be at the meetings, who was going to be reliable and dependable. And that's who I wanted to be. So now it's your turn. I challenge you this week to think about in your life, what area do you say yes too much? This could be a hard one because it's really difficult sometimes to look at ourselves and be aware how much we say yes to things we don't want. So practice it because it's only going to get better with practice. Now, if this video resonates with you, please make sure to like it, share it, subscribe to it. And if you find yourself struggling with boundaries and you find yourself stuck, reach out if you want some extra guidance and check out my coaching because this boundary issue is huge. And I don't think that many books really get into why it's so challenging for us. Because we can sit here and talk about the fears all day long, but until you can start addressing those fears, unpacking those fears, you're going to be stuck in fear, not able to show up in vulnerability. And honestly, boundaries are going to be a challenge. So if you want to learn more about boundaries, you want to talk about it more, message me and check out my coaching. Thanks.